I was trying to get a hold, Joan, of Stewart Parks.
Okay.
Because he was, of course, everyone knows, he was in prison related to charges January 6th, right? Everybody knows the story of Stewart Parks. Big story out today. I'm going to get to James Comey in a second. But big story out today where Kash Patel and the Trump administration have now let it be known that the FBI had 273 undercover plainclothes agents on the grounds on January 6th.
Oh, what do you know about that?
So that's what everybody has been wanting to know for a long time. And so we've got Christopher Wray now, former FBI Director Christopher Wray, where he has been saying, I have no idea how many people we had on the grounds. Because the question is, all right, so the FBI had people in the crowd. Did they help to incite the violence? That's number one. Number two, we all know that they just simply allowed people into the Capitol on that day. So that's another question, and that's always been a question. So think about it. You've got the FBI there on the grounds, undercover and so forth. And so follow me here. Because the accusation has been that the FBI or, people there on the ground in an undercover capacity sort of incited, egged on what happened there on January 6th, got everybody riled up. People ended up going into the Capitol, did what they did inside the Capitol vandalism and otherwise. And you had the security simply letting people in. And so one of my questions would be, okay, so the FBI has never, even though they knew, and they lied about it, in my opinion. They lied about it when Christopher Wray was testifying in front of Congress. How many assets did the FBI have on the ground? Oh, we have no idea. 273. Now, the FBI has also said that there's no evidence that Antifa was there. There is no evidence that Black Lives Matter was there. Conversely, George Soros and the Soros family in the news today, there is no evidence that, the Soros Family Foundation maybe paid some agitators to get in there and start some crap. We don't know what's real and what's not. But now that we know that the FBI has been lying about what they knew about January 6th, we can't accept anything that they say as truth. So, and I'm going to get into that story. But I want to talk to Stewart Parks because everybody knows he was there on January 6th. And in my opinion, he was unjustly jailed, and then he was, of course, pardoned by President Trump. I called Stewart. I also have sent him a text message as well. So if he wants to call in, I would just love his reaction. If not, I bet you Murphy Show will have him on. It is 7:10 on Nashville's Morning News.
No one is above the law.
The fact is, no one is above the law.
No one is above the law.
That's what we're talking about. James Comey. I think this is the biggest news story of the day for a number of different reasons. Number one, of course, is because the media, and I'm assuming ABC News is doing this, Joan. ABC News is saying, well, this is nothing but Donald Trump going after his political enemies, right? Well, if Donald Trump is in there and these people like James Comey have done things that are wrong, then regardless as to whether or not they're Donald Trump's best friend or Donald Trump's enemy, they need to be accountable. But we did hear that for years, right, from Democrats.
We did.
No one is above the law.
And we also know that James Comey didn't get a big pardon from Joe Biden heading out the door. Neither did Christopher Wray.
Oh,
so,
very good. The former FBI director now being indicted by a grand jury. And this is important because I'm not seeing anywhere on where I'm looking where they're really talking much about the grand jury. What they're thinking is Donald Trump had somebody type up an indictment and handed it to judges or whatever, and they're going to bring up charges. This was in front of a grand jury. They took the evidence that they had on James Comey, and they brought it to a grand jury. Remember what a grand jury does. A grand jury looks at the evidence, and this is just, this is like a jury, grand jury. And they look at the evidence, and they decide whether or not there is enough evidence to charge someone. And now that grand jury did, it wasn't just Donald Trump bringing up the indictment fairy and being able to charge James Comey. No, this was a grand jury. And they have now indicted James Comey on 2 counts. From Fox News, the counts are alleged false statements within jurisdiction of the legislative branch and obstruction of congressional proceeding. Comey, they say, will reportedly be turning himself in today. His arraignment is set for 10 a.m. on October 9th. In Alexandria Courtroom 600 before District Judge Michael S. Nachmanoff. The probe into Comey centered on whether he lied to Congress during his September 30th, 2020 testimony about his handling of the original Trump-Russia probe at the FBI, known inside the Bureau as Crossfire Hurricane. The indictment alleges that Comey obstructed a congressional investigation into the disclosure of sensitive information. The indictment also alleges Comey made a false statement when he stated he did not authorize someone at the FBI to be an anonymous source. According to the indictment, that statement was false. So there are a lot of people that are out there blasting James Comey this morning. Comey, for his side, he is now out there and he's speaking. I've got his full statement. Joan, you played a little bit of it. Mm-hmm. This is James Comey's full statement about that indictment. Listen.
My family and I have known for years that there are costs to standing up to Donald Trump, but we couldn't imagine ourselves living any other way. We will not live on our knees, and you shouldn't either. Somebody that I love dearly recently said that fear is the tool of a tyrant, and she's right. But I'm not afraid, and I hope you're not either. I hope instead you are engaged, you are paying attention, and you will vote like your beloved country depends upon it.
We did, James, in 2024.
Hashtag I voted for this.
Which it does. My heart is broken for the Department of Justice, but I have great confidence in the federal judicial system, and I'm innocent. So let's have a trial and keep the faith.
So there you go. That is what James Comey has to say for him, and that's fine. And I would love to have a trial. So he does say that he's innocent. There are different things to center on with his testimony, but there are a lot of moments that he's been accused of lying. Much of this does center on his testimony from years ago where he was questioned about leaks within his FBI. Let's talk about James Comey. And because, there's like 3 or 4 at least different incidents where he lied. So this is where he was talking to Lindsey Graham and he was telling Congress under oath that the FBI was not spying on Donald Trump. So this is what he said. This is, again, James Comey.
Do you stand by your House testimony of March 20th that there was no surveillance of the Trump campaign that you're aware of?
Correct.
You would know about it if they were, is that correct?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
With respect to the president's tweets about alleged wiretapping directed at him by the prior administration, I have no information that supports those tweets, and we have looked carefully inside the FBI. The Department of Justice has asked me to share with you that the answer is the same for the Department of Justice and all its components. The department has no information that supports those tweets.
Well, it turns out that they were spying on Donald Trump. And so that is one of many lies that people are focused on with James Comey, and the indictments are forthcoming. He is going to be turning himself in. I want to also play another piece of audio. This is James Comey. And again, it's all about his lies. And this is Comey, and he's talking about the FBI and the Russian investigation. This is the moment where Comey told Congress that the Steele dossier was not used in that 2016 intelligence community assessment on the Russia hoax, and it turns out that it was. This is, again, James Comey lying under oath.
Not been verified?
I don't know whether it was Brennan. I remember being told that the group's view was
it was significant enough and consistent enough with other intelligence that it ought to be included, but it wasn't sufficiently corroborated to be in the body of the intelligence community assessment. So they put a brief summary of it in an annex.
All right. So again, that was another lie. Then, and I'm just pointing out the lies. And then there was this lie about how Comey was accused of leaking information to the news media about Donald Trump. Remember, we covered all of this at the time. This is the original testimony of James Comey. This is where he's speaking to Chuck Grassley, and Grassley is asking him about all of that. This is how that went. Again, this is Chuck Grassley and James Comey.
Director Comey, have you ever been an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation?
Never.
Have you ever authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation?
No.
Has any classified information relating to President Trump or his associates been declassified and shared with the media?
Not to my knowledge.
So all of that now, as everyone knows, many of those allegations that he was lying in all of those instances have come true. At least that is what the indictment shows. So
Chairman
for James
Grassley
Comey,
asked you point.
So for James Comey, this is a very big issue in the fact that he has now been proven to be lying to Congress. Now, this is the audio where Ted Cruz is asking Comey about those lies, about the lies that he told Chuck Grassley, and Comey, he just continued to lie. And again, listen how, and Ted Cruz is an amazing attorney, he cornered him. And Comey continued to lie.
Chairman Grassley asked you point blank, quote, have you ever been an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation? You responded under oath, quote, never. He then asked you, quote, have you ever authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or the Clinton administration? You responded again under oath, no. Now, as you know, Mr. McCabe, who works for you, has publicly and repeatedly stated that he leaked information to the Wall Street Journal. Who's telling the truth?
I can only speak to my testimony. I stand by what the testimony you summarized that I gave. I'm not going to characterize Andy's testimony, but mine is the same today.
So it's almost like he's gaslighting, because they've got the testimony of Andy McCabe, who was the one that Comey instructed to leak that information. And they've got also the documents and whatever other evidence they have. And now you've got James Comey, who is now going to be indicted. And again, this is not Donald Trump going after his political enemies. This is a grand jury saying that, yes, there was enough evidence for Comey to be indicted. And there's a lot of people obviously talking about this. James Gagliano is a former FBI supervisor, and he was on Laura Ingraham last night, and he talked a lot about how James Comey, accused of lying under oath, of doing reprehensible things, of politicizing the FBI, of leaking information. These are all things that Comey is going to, legally be indicted for.
James Comey was FBI director for 3 years and 247 days. He was fired May 9th, 2017 for cause. He serves at the pleasure of the president. And I'm sorry, many of the things that James Comey did were wrong. There are 4 IG reports. And Laura, I'm wonky enough to have read every word of those 4 reports, and they were scathing. There's a number of people that look at James Comey as the epitome of probity and moral rectitude. But there's also a lot of us that feel like a lot of this, as my colleague just mentioned, was preening and fluffing and trying to work on his legacy. Last thing, 2018, he shows up with Katie Couric at the Aspen Ideas Festival. Her last question to her is, what do you want your legacy to be? He says, I hope to be forgotten. Then book tours, 8647, and now a humiliating indictment.
Yeah, I mean, 8647, the shell formation. Of course, everybody is sharing. I'll see if I can share it too. There's a meme out there, and it's made of seashells, FAFO. Mm-hmm. I mean, let's face it. I mean, James Comey has been going after Donald Trump, a thorn in Donald Trump's side for a long time. And he did. I mean, you listen to people who know. James Comey politicized the FBI. He lied about Donald Trump. He lied to Congress. He did arrange for the leaking of information. Then he denied it. He denied that the Steele dossier was used for those intelligence assessments. It actually was. He lied about that in front of Congress as well. So to me, I mean, says the conservative who hates James Comey, I think this is an open and shut case. What about this guy, Brent Tolman? He is a former United States attorney who also says that James Comey guilty as heck.
Laura, about whether there were abuses of the FISA Patriot Act, Rule 702. He was willing to lie about that. He's been telling lies, and he's been doing it continually because he has not been held accountable. He didn't have a DOJ that was willing to prosecute him or even legitimately investigate him for what he was doing. We know the history, but I will tell you this. These statutes are there for a reason, to especially give confidence that someone that's hauled in front of Congress is not lying while under oath, and someone is not interfering with the accountability and the transparency that we expect from our government. So I commend them for presenting this. The grand jury did its job, and we'll see what all the details are in the indictment.
Remember when the grand jury, I forget what it was, there was something against Donald Trump. And the Democrats were all, oh, you've got to respect the grand jury. Remember that whole thing, Joan?
Oh, yeah.
Well, guess what? We've got to respect the grand jury. So we'll see what happens with James Comey. By the way, he did that. Brett Tolman mentioned lying about Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. That is the NSA targeting non-U.S. persons for surveillance. But then ultimately Americans got wrapped up in that. He said it was lawfully used, and it turns out it wasn't. So you've got, I mean, I think I touched on like 3 or 4 different lies that James Comey has told, and with the congressional testimony and everything else. We'll see what happens today. Do you think we're going to get a mugshot today?
Oh, wouldn't that be beautiful?
Will there be a mugshot? Because Comey's turning himself in. He's been indicted. I don't know what the whole leak. Well, you would know, Sam. Is there going to be a mugshot?
There will be a mugshot. There will be fingerprinting, the whole nine, whether it's publicly released or not. I'm pretty sure Trump pushed for his to be released when he went through the facility in Georgia. So we'll see. Based on Comey's video, which I find to be full of bovine scatology, he would probably want it out there. To, it's like the communists like to say, if you say it enough, people will believe it. And he's not innocent, but he wants people to believe it.
So I think that you think it would be good for Comey, good or bad for Comey to have his mugshot released? Do you think that'd be good for him or bad for him?
I think it's kind of neutral, because I think he's not a politician. He's not someone that the leftists are going to rally behind. So they're really not going to care as much. He's no Trump to them.
Yeah, he's not going to use it as a campaign ad like President Trump has used it.
He's not going to model his portrait shot after it.
Right. I mean, maybe we could get another picture frame and put James Comey's mugshot right next to Donald Trump's here in the studio.
I think we should put it in the bathroom.
I got to tell you, James Comey
the
has
busted one.
That kind of ego that I bet he believes that he can run for office after this is over. I bet you he believes that.
Launching a political career.
Yeah.
I think you can do that from federal prison.
Stewart Parks, who of course spent time in prison for what happened on January 6th, he's going to join us for reaction to this next story. Former FBI Director Christopher Wray could be in big trouble, just like James Comey. Now, we've all suspected or knew that the FBI had people in the crowd on January 6th outside of the nation's capital. Now, here's the questions that we have all had. How many were actually FBI agents or assets? Did they try and rile up the crowd, inspire them to go into the Capitol, to vandalize, to fight law enforcement, and so forth? Now, former FBI Director Christopher Wray, he's always been evasive about how many people were assets on January 6th. This is what he said in Congress. Listen.
Things here, and please don't distract here because we're focusing on those who were there in an undercover capacity on January 6th. How many were there?
Again, I'm not sure that I can give you that number as I sit here. I'm not sure there were undercover agents on scene.
I find that kind of a remarkable statement, Director. At this point, you don't know whether there were undercover federal agents, FBI agents in the crowd or in the Capitol on January 6th.
I say that because I want to be very careful. There have been a number of court filings related to some of these topics, and I want to make sure that I stick within what's in.
I understand that.
So here's what's going on. You've got Christopher Wray, and he is testifying in a congressional hearing. And Congressman Andy Biggs, he's not buying it. And it was so frustrating, of course, watching all of this play out because you knew, I remember saying this at the time, you knew that he knew. You knew that. But he wouldn't budge.
But I thought I heard you say you didn't know whether there were FBI agents or informants or human sources in the Capitol or in the vicinity on January 6th. Did I misunderstand you? I thought that's what you said.
Well, I referred very specifically to undercover agents.
Yeah. And so are you acknowledging then there were undercover agents?
As I sit here right now, I do not believe there were undercover agents on scene.
All right, so, with that moment, you're just like, whatever, dude. Here's what the folks at Just the News have reported. And by the way, Joan, I'm sure you see the same thing that I see.
Mm-hmm.
Breaking news, consumer spending strong in the month of August.
Yes.
Despite, they say, elevated inflation.
It's been amazing how much we've learned about the economy since, everyone has said, it's going to shut down.
Oh, I know.
Our economy is going to falter.
I think people have confidence. It's just like what we talked about earlier this week, where the American people have confidence in Republicans and Donald Trump to handle the economy. All right, real quick, because I don't want to keep Stewart Parks waiting. The FBI, this is how Just the News and some other outlets are reporting this. The FBI secretly deployed 274 plainclothes agents to the U.S. Capitol during the January 6th, 2021 riot, they call this. And an operation, they say, the FBI says, was so disorganized it unleashed searing frustrations among many of the FBI's rank and file that the Bureau had lost its core competencies to wokeness and allowed its employees to become pawns in a political war, according to an after-action report kept from the president, from the public for more than 4 years. They say scores of FBI agents and personnel, many from the Bureau's premier Washington field office, the WFO, sent anonymous complaints to the after-action team detailing how agents were sent in and they felt unsafe. It was an unsafe scenario without proper safety equipment or the ability to identify themselves readily as armed officers to other police agencies. The report obtained by Just the News shows. The most persistent complaint, they say, was that the Bureau during the James Comey and Christopher Wray era had become infected with political bias and liberal ideology that treated the protesters from the summer 2020 Black Lives Matter riots far differently than those arrested in the aftermath of the January 6th episode. Stewart Parks is joining us, and I want people to know, Stewart, we're not going to talk about the race for the 7th because I don't want to get hit with 50,000 requests for equal time. But this is a legit, this is a legit news story. So, I mean, you just heard me relate the story about how there were 274 plainclothes agents to the U.S. Capitol. And you spent how long in prison for that?
Yeah, well, I was sentenced. The desire was for me to serve out 8 months by the woke left judge that sentenced me. I was sentenced 8 months with a year of supervised release. I only did 5 months and 10 days because I basically, good time my way out and still had 20 days of halfway house and, months of supervised release.
And your big crime, remind me, was that you were carrying around a flag.
Well, yeah, they used that to say I was protesting and parading. And then, yeah, exactly. The biggest crime was just waving a historic flag, wearing a MAGA hat, and allegedly trespassing. That was the big crime, which landed me in prison.
So what do you think about the fact that the FBI had 274 plainclothes agents there? One of the big theories out there, conspiracy or otherwise, is that, and they don't address that in the Just the News story, but that you had people within the FBI, assets or agents, and they really encouraged, try to rile up the crowd. We all saw the guards literally letting people into the Capitol. Ultimately, then that ends up people wandering around the Capitol just like you and ending up not only with prison time, but also they used the entire January 6th narrative to pull Donald Trump off of social media. They penalized conservatives both, for jail time, as you well know, but also taking people off of social media. I mean, it goes on and on. So I don't know. What do you think about this story?
Oh, it's one of those, it's too little, too late in that, we've all already done our prison time. Lives have been destroyed. People are dead because of this. And you beautifully brought it up, all the things that, it's kicked off social media and the prison time. But it goes even far worse than that. People fired from their jobs, homes lost, everything. And this, evil stunt the FBI pulled to, make the conservatives look bad, I mean, this hurt a lot of people. And so we want to know who those FBI agents were. If they're the one tearing up the building, they're on, public payroll, American people. Supposed to be working for American people and doing their jobs, protecting the public and all this stuff. And they're, at the Capitol tearing up stuff. And then again, with the Ray Epps guy, he did way worse than me, and he gets a sweetheart deal such as like 3 months of community service or whatever have you. So that's just it's atrocious. And one way you can kind of tell is just how their sentencing, their court played out. If they got unusually sweet deals, right, then you can almost tell that person either is an informant or whatever have you. But this is just very disturbing, and it's too late. I mean, by now we already know that there was government role in January 6th.
Well, and Ray Epps, of course, a lot of folks have said that he is or was an FBI asset. Let me ask you this, because I just played audio from former FBI Director Christopher Wray. James Comey, the also former FBI Director, his lies are now coming back finally to bite him in the butt. But we know that both of these former FBI directors lied, and they lied about January 6th. They've always said that you had there's no evidence of Antifa, Black Lives Matter. I don't know. I'm going to throw out there maybe some Soros antagonists as well, just for good measure. But the government, the authorities, and Christopher Wray and others have said there's no evidence. But when they've been denying that they had any assets or obfuscating the truth about how many assets they had on the ground, it seems to me like you can't trust anything that they say. So because I had people in the days after January 6th, I've had all these people calling up, and they were there, and they said Antifa was there, Black Lives Matter was there. The FBI and the government says no, they weren't. I mean, I don't know what to believe. Well, let me reframe that. I don't believe anything they say.
Yeah, well, you're exactly right. And again, MAGA is peaceful. Conservatives are loving, God-fearing, have respectable people. We love law enforcement. We have such reverence for our Capitol. You look at, and I heard those same things, and I've seen people that, were more aggressive than usual, and it makes you wonder, whose side were they really on? If they're, just there like, having Antifa view and just there to make us look bad. And look, January 6th was a historic crowd. There were people all over the nation, pretty much all over the world there, and most of them, like me, were there to, be peacefully present and to show disgust, in a peaceful way at the election fraud that took place in 2020. And so, Yeah, I mean, it's just the FBI needs to come clear with it. Give us the name. Let us know who exactly were FBI informants. And again, with the pipe bomb guy, why nobody has, as far as I'm aware, nobody has arrested him. I don't even think we know who he is. He should be number one because he's over there planting bombs and high traffic areas. I mean, that's the number one guy that should have been arrested. He still, as far as I'm aware, has never been identified or arrested.
Yeah, you know what? You're right about that. I don't think the pipe bomb guy and by the way, in Washington D.C., where this is, perhaps arguably, I don't know, but this is the most surveilled city in the country, and they can't figure out who pipe bomb guy is. All right. We got to go. Stewart Parks, thank you very much for joining us and giving us your instant reaction to all of this. I wonder, Stewart, if this is going to be the first shoe to drop, and maybe we'll find out more information on what these 274 FBI agents or assets did on that fateful day. And Stewart, I very much appreciate you taking the time to join us here on Super Talk 99.7.